Hi friends, I'm Miss Erin from C.C. Mellor Memorial Library here for today's middle grade moment where we're going to talk about some books that are great for 9 to 12-year-old readers. All of the books that we talk about today are going to be available through the library's subscription to Hoopla, which means that if you have your library card handy, you can go ahead and check these out as ebooks or e-audiobooks right now. So today I thought we could talk about books that revolve around puzzles and ciphers and codes and solving mysteries. So let's get started. The first one I wanted to tell you about is called The Lost Treasure of Tuckernuck, and it's by Emily Fairlie. And this one is about a girl named Lori who is just starting middle school this year and is not thrilled because she has been sent to Tuckernuck, the same school that her parents went to, and her aunts and her uncles and all of her family, but it is not the school where her best friend has been sent. So Lori is having trouble making friends. She is having to listen to her whole family be upset because Tuckernuck is going to be torn down very soon to make way for a big store. And so through all of this, Lori has been stuck on gerbil duty, taking care of the class pet with a boy in her class named Bud, who she doesn't like very much. But one day, while taking care of the gerbil, they discover a clue, and it turns out that the original principal of the school has left a mystery hidden in the school's walls for the past 80 years. And it all revolves around solving different aspects of the story and a painting of a chicken. So as the chicken painting probably tells you, this is a pretty silly story, a funny book, but it still has lots and lots of those puzzles and mysteries and codes to solve in it. And it's the first one in a series, so there is a sequel, and they are both available as ebooks on Hoopla. The next book that I wanted to talk to you about is from the York series. It's book 1. It's called The Shadow Cipher, and this is the first book in a trilogy. The first 2 books are available as ebooks on Hoopla, and the third book actually comes out next month. So now is a great time to get into this book series. And it is by Laura Ruby, and it is about twins Tess and Theo who live in York. And York sounds like New York, right? It sounds familiar. But the York in this world is a little bit different. About 200 years ago, these siblings called the Morningstar siblings discovered this really neat technology that just sent them way ahead of where our New York would have been 200 years ago. And they left behind all these really cool buildings and these tiny mechanical flying bugs and these animals that are hybrids of house pets that we have and wild animals that you might see at the zoo. And so Tess and Theo live in a building that the Morningstar siblings designed, one that they built. But the siblings disappeared mysteriously 200 years ago, leaving behind a mystery called the Old York Cipher. And Tess and Theo and their grandfather think that they might have what it takes to solve the Old York Cipher. So, I have to confess, I'm in the middle of this one right now. So if you are a faster reader than I am, do not tell me how it ends because I want to know. But I'll keep you all posted if it turns out to be as good as I think it is. The next book that I wanted to tell you about is called The Parker Inheritance, and this is by Varian Johnson, and it is the story of Candace, who moves with her mom from the city of Atlanta to the small town of Lambert, South Carolina. And Candace is kind of bummed to be moving to this small town because It's not as big and exciting as the city that she's used to. She doesn't know anybody there, and her grandmother used to work in this small town, used to work for the city there, but she had to leave town in disgrace a few years back when she was discovered using city money to dig for buried treasure and was just laughed out of town. But here's the thing, Candace and her new friend Brandon start to discover clues that make it look like maybe Candace's grandma wasn't as crazy as everybody thought. Maybe there really is buried treasure and hidden secrets in this small town. So one thing to know about this book is that it is not as funny, as silly as a lot of the other stories that I've talked about today. This one is a little more serious. It brings up some very real history from our country. And if you know anything about the 1950s and the laws that were known as Jim Crow laws, you may have an idea that this book takes a close look at some pretty serious topics. But it also includes a lot of those puzzles and ciphers and things. And so if you're up for that kind of a read, a more serious one, I think it's a really good read. I really liked it. The next book that I wanted to talk about, I don't know if I mentioned, The Parker Inheritance and this next one are both available as audiobooks, so you can listen to them through Hoopla. This last one that I wanted to talk about is called Winterhouse, and it's by Ben Guterson. And Winterhouse is about a girl named Elizabeth, and she's an orphan who lives with her aunt and uncle, and they're not very nice to her. So she is very surprised when, out of the blue, she is invited to spend Christmas vacation at this super fancy hotel called Winterhouse. So she goes, and she makes friends with a boy there named Freddie. And she also discovers that it's entirely possible that she might have magic powers. And the magic powers that she has might help her solve the mysterious disappearance of the owner of the hotel's daughter. And it's entirely possible that the daughter may have disappeared mysteriously while doing magic of her own. So if you like all of these puzzles and ciphers and things to solve, but also want a little bit of magic in your story, this one would be a really good one for you. And that's Winterhouse. This is also the first in a series. I know that the first 2 are available on Hoopla. I think there are at least 3 out so far, though. So if you like this one, there's more of it. But I thought, since we're talking about puzzles and codes and ciphers, that we could learn a cipher ourselves. So a cipher is the name for a code that substitutes one letter in a message, like letter by letter, substitutes each letter for either a different letter or a number or a symbol. The one that we're going to learn today, the cipher that we're going to learn, is called Pigpen Cipher. And it's called that. It has a few other names too, but it's called Pigpen Cipher because, or Tic-Tac-Toe Cipher, because they kind of look like pig pens or tic-tac-toes as we're drawing them out. So I'm going to draw 2 little tic-tac-toe boards and 2 X's, and I'm going to put dots in one of the tic-tac-toe boards and one of the X's. And this is the key. This is what you'll need to give to your friend if you send a coded message to someone. Or this is what you will need to help you encode your message. So we've got our X's, we've got our pig pens, our tic-tac-toe boards. Now it's time to add our letters. So I'm just going to write every letter of the alphabet in one of the spaces on here. trick is to make sure that you put the letters in the same order as whoever you are giving your message to. QRSTUV. Do you have to say the alphabet? Like sing the song every time you write it out? I feel like I still do. All right. Oh, does our Y look too much like an X? All right, there we go. So now we've got every letter of the alphabet in each of the spots on the key. So how do we write in our code? So we have to come up with what we're gonna say. Let's write howdy. All right. How am I gonna write that in code? Let's look. So H over here, we wanna look at where the black lines are around the H and write those out. So do you see how the H, it goes around the H like that? That's the part that we're gonna draw in. That's what we're gonna substitute in our cipher instead of H. So same thing for O. Over here, we've got our kind of square around the O, and then we have this dot in it as well. And the dot helps us know that we mean O and not F, which is in the same spot over on that other tic-tac-toe board. W over here, see the W, we need our dot, and then D is over there, and Y is also going to need a dot. So we wrote howdy. Should I give you another one to solve? Let's see if you can do this one. If you do it a bunch of times, if you practice a lot, you can go a lot faster. But especially when you're first starting out, it can take a little bit to encode something. That's okay. Do you think you can decode that for me? You'll have to leave it in the comments if you think you can decode that. Or maybe you can write your own message in code and leave it for me and see if I can figure it out. The other thing I wanted to say, since we were talking about all of these codes and puzzles and riddles and things, if this doesn't whet your appetite for it, if you're left still wanting more, a lot of libraries across the country and around the world have been creating what they call online escape rooms. And I'm going to put a link to those down in the description of this video. And so you and your family could play together and try to solve codes and puzzles. Some of them have time limits, so you have to solve all of the puzzles in a certain amount of time. A lot of them have stories along with them or connect to books. If you really like Harry Potter, there's some great Harry Potter themed ones, but there's also some ones that are based on places and other different kinds of things. But you'll have to check those out in the comments and let me know if you like them, if there's anything else that you'd like to see with them, or if you create your own. I want to know. Thanks for stopping by for today's middle grade moment. I will be here next Thursday with more books for 9 to 12-year-old readers. If you have a topic you'd really like me to cover, let me know, or a kind of book that you're looking for. I'd love to hear it. I'll see you next week.